What the Speak, episode 58. Oh my God.
Do you kick ass when you speak, present, or pitch? If not, these expert discussions and insider tips can help you right now, today. Welcome to the What the Speak podcast. I'm your host, Brian Kelly.
I want to thank you so much for either listening to or watching today's episode. If you love What the Speak, please do me a big favor and help spread the word. Go to whatthespeak.com/love. Again, it means the world to have your support and your enthusiasm, so thank you. Ryan Avery, are you ready to answer the question, what the speak?
I am ready. Bring it on.
All right, let's do it. So Ryan, I know that you are, what do they say, the youngest world champion speaker in history. We'll dive into in just a bit. You're also the guy behind How to Be a Speaker, where you help people learn how to improve their careers through better communication. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what I do. Yes.
Awesome. Well, you are a perfect guest for this show, and I'm excited to dive into what it is that you do. Now, to start, can you really quickly give us a quick breakdown of the various topics that you usually speak on when you're hired to go out and give a presentation or a talk to a group?
Absolutely. I help leaders effectively communicate their message to live audiences. So that's what I specialize in. I don't specialize in webinars or social media. I help leaders go out and develop and deliver their keynotes or work one-on-one with their clients, help pitch a presentation or do TV interviews, answering questions. I help leaders effectively communicate their message to live audiences. That's what I specialize in.
Got it. Well, that is an excellent area to focus in on because there's so many different facets to speaking.
Yes.
And this is definitely one that people need help with.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about how the heck did you get into this? And of course, we want to hear the story about the whole world champion speaker thing.
Okay.
But where did this all start for you? Where did it begin? And how did you come to a place where now you're called on by many people to help them improve their communication?
I was being a normal 20-something-year-old watching several hours of YouTube videos one day, and I was laying in bed, and one came across where this person was going for the World Championship of Public Speaking, and I watched the video and I go, I can do that. And I ran outside of because I was in my bedroom and my wife was sitting on the couch. I said, babe, I'm going to be the world champion of public speaking this year. And she looks at me and she goes, that's a real thing? And I said, yes, it's a real thing. Will you help me? And she said, absolutely. And then we took 8 months of our life and trained, dedicated literally every chance we could to watch videos, to read books, to study speakers, to build our team up. And we won the world championship in 2012. After we won, the next day we woke up to 269 emails asking us to speak and coach all over the world. I was working full-time at Special Olympics then as their director of marketing and communication, and I loved that job. It was my dream job. I thought it was like what I wanted to do. And I was trying to do both. So I would work during the week, go speak on the weekend, work during the week. And I was working like 100 hours a week. It was too much. I was getting drained. And I was doing them both well, but I wasn't excelling at either one of them. And so I talked to my wife and said, hey, I think I can take this speaking on full time and we can support Special Olympics in another way. Are you okay if I take this full time? Because it's going to, as you know, speaking takes time to build your client lists and grow, and you're always learning. We were in Canada. I was giving a keynote in Canada, and we were at a dinner table out at a restaurant, and we shook on it, and then we became full-time speakers.
Curious.
Yeah.
Well, let me dive into this a little bit more with you, and let's really get a sense for what is the world champion in speaking?
Okay, that's good.
Let's talk about that. And then the other thing is, in this 8-month window of time that you focused on that, you mentioned some of the things that you did, but I'd love to see if you could explain, like, what were some of the key critical things that you learned that helped you get to that place of being awarded this, this type of designation?
That's great. So the World Championship is put on by an organization called Toastmasters International, which I'm a part of. There are 300,000 members in 194 countries around the world. Each year, 30,000 people from 116 countries compete for the World Championship title, and there are 6 rounds in which the competitor has to win first place in each round in order to be the world champion. So it's very similar to like city, state, country, world, semifinal stat. So that was the championship, and it was a lot of work. It took some... there were a lot of ups and downs. I think the 2 biggest takeaways that I took from... Three takeaways. First, I quickly learned that your voice is the most powerful tool on the planet. That everyone has a message, everyone has a story, and especially here in the United States, when our First Amendment is the freedom of speech, we should exercise that right. We should share our stories, we should share our messages because it can help people. And developing your voice, I believe, learning how to improve your communication is the best thing that you can do if you want to have a better life and be more successful, because everything comes down to how well can you effectively communicate. That's why I'm passionate about teaching communication skills. The second thing that I learned is only compete against yourself. There's no one else that you can compete against too. And once you start doing that, once you start only focusing on pushing yourself, you'll blow your expectations out of the water. A lot of the times too is when you compete against other people, sometimes you might be around people who might not necessarily be the best, and you're only getting your standards up so much. But if you compete against yourself, I mean, the standards literally are endless. You can keep going and going and going and do it. I mean, breaking world history or breaking records or setting records. And then the third was one of my mentors. I had a really rough time throughout the contest. I mean, there were some hard parts where I broke my leg. I was writing funny speeches, but no one was laughing, and it was just rough. And my mentor, he told me, Ryan, no one rides a roller coaster to get to the end. Yep. Enjoy the ride. And what I learned from that is life is a roller coaster. And the more ups and downs and twists and turns you have, the better roller coaster it is. And what's cool about it is not everyone gets the chance to even ride that roller coaster. So be thankful that you're going on a down slope or an up slope or a twist or a turn. Like, life is a roller coaster. Enjoy that ride. Those are the 3 things that I learned.
Perfect. Yeah, I really love to talk about what are some of the things that you've struggled with, and those are definitely key things that I think for the audience to think about. You may not be the person that wants to set out on this path of becoming a world champion with Toastmasters for speaking, right? But the same lessons apply that Ryan just went through on. Enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. Public speaking and improving your communication skills is not something that you can do in a snap of a finger. And the concentrated effort that Ryan put into this is definitely something that most of us don't do or don't have the luxury of being able to do. But it's whether it's 8 months or 8 years, we commit to improving our communication skills. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, but it's always about continually improving. And many of the guests that we've had on this show, those that are very accomplished, have even said those same things. Like, I've got tons of stuff that I still need to work on. Just because I get paid lots of money to come and speak as a keynote speaker doesn't mean that I've arrived. And that's something that's critical and key. And it doesn't matter if you're just starting with your first presentation next week. Remember that.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I like this business is it's always changing. It's always different. You have to be learning. If you think that you're going to be developing one keynote and that'll last you for the rest of your life, you're wrong. You're always changing that keynote. As you know, you're adapting it to that certain audience. I cannot tell you the mistakes. I cringe thinking about some mistakes that I made. The other month, I made a $50,000 mistake, and it was just, it just made me sick thinking about it. But you're right. You have to learn. You have to keep reading. There are so many resources out there for you too. Podcasts like this or YouTube videos, National Speakers Association, Toastmasters International, books, videos. I mean, if you want to learn something, you hit on that key word there is concentrate, right? So the concentrated focus of learning something that you're passionate about and diving all the way in. You hear people like Seth Godin, one of my favorite speakers and authors. He's been blogging every single day for 10 years, right? Chris Brogan, he says it too. Like, you have to put in 10 years to be an instant success. Like, it's all about concentration. And one of the things that I love to teach college students is learning how to not be distracted all the time. We're taught to be distracted. We're never taught how to focus. And if you can quickly learn that, you'll really be more successful than all of your other peers.
So true. All right, Ryan. Well, let's talk a little bit about your unique expertise, your perspective that you've got on this whole area of speaking.
Okay.
And the first thing I'd love to talk about is, for those in the audience, got a mix of people. Some people just want to become better speakers. Other people want to know how to become a professional speaker.
Yep.
What's a couple of key things that you would recommend for those that want to become a professional and get paid for their speaking that you've learned on your journey?
First, I think the biggest misconception is you do not have to do this full time. Being a professional speaker, you can do it part time. I know I help a lot of people who want to keep their jobs, but they want to speak 5 or 12 times a year, once a month, and they're professors or they're business executives, and they want to just pick up an extra $5, $10, $25,000 a speech. They want to know how to develop and deliver their message. So first, I am a full-time speaker because that's what I love to do. That is my passion. But if you have another passion and that's something else that you want to do, and this is something on the side, this is a great side gig to have as well. So I'd first identify, are you wanting to take this full time? If so, you've got a lot of concentration, going back to being focused on that. If you want to take this part time, it's like a hobby. Pick it up. You can learn, you can grow, you can take different seminars and webinars and learn here and there. But it doesn't have to be full or full time. I think another thing that you have to identify, as you probably know this as well, is you can't help everyone. You cannot help everyone. So who is it that you want to help? So think about your audience, what problem they have, and the solution that you have for that problem. So this is what I help with some of my clients. Imagine you're sitting in a room by yourself, and you have been told you are only allowed to say one sentence for the rest of your life. One person gets to walk in that room. What is that one person? What do they look like? Are they male? Are they female? Are they white? Are they black? Are they gay? Are they straight? Are they Christian? Are they Muslim? I mean, get down to what that person is that walks into that room, and what message is it that you're telling them or helping them with. That's your audience. That's your message. Go out and learn everything you can about it. So for me, I want to help people understand that your voice is the most powerful tool on the planet. So I need to make sure that I learn how to use your voice, understand everything I can about communication, and teach people that your voice matters. So that's way. And then what else you can do to start understanding, there's so much. There is so much that you have to do. But another thing, I get passionate about this because I love to help people. So this is what I say. I help people who want to blank by blank. So I help aspiring speakers who want to get paid for speaking by teaching them a formula that I use to win the World Championship of Public Speaking. So I help blank who want to blank by blank. That'll help you in your speaking career tremendously. Help me a lot.
All right. Good stuff, man. So the next thing I wanted to ask you was, how does somebody develop and deliver a simple, impactful, resonating message?
Yeah.
But I think I may go a different direction because
Okay.
I think this will also answer the question.
Okay.
You just mentioned your formula that you used for winning the World Championship of Speaking. Can you talk to us about the formula?
Great. Yes. And I have a free download of a workshop for 2-hour workshop where I go into it at ryanavery.com. You can hit subscribe and I email it to you instantly. It's video, so you can see that workshop and I give you the formula. But the formula is you make it simple, you make it impactful, and you make it relatable. One of the formulas that I use, there's about 3 or 4 different ones in my keynote, is the one formula called intro, 3 stories, and a conclusion. So we're taught, right, we have to have an intro and a body and conclusion, but we're never taught what parts of an intro and a body and conclusion you need. Yeah. So the first rule is your intro and conclusion should tie back together. Wherever you pick them up, drop them off. Too many speakers, they'll start one point, they'll tell their stories, and then they'll drift off and end somewhere else. what that does is it lets your audience know that you're concluding, and it lets them know that, wow, you've really put a lot in my lap and you've tied it up. We like those tied up finished packages. So tie your intro back into your conclusion. Another thing in the body is share 3 stories. Notice how I don't say 3 points. No one cares about the points. We learn through stories. That's how our species has evolved, is before the written word, we learned through stories, and we will continue to do that. Everything you and I would say 95% of the lessons you and I have learned have been through simple stories, from Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall to all those little fables that we learned when we were a kid about respect and love and trust. Those are just simple stories that make a point. And that's the difference. They're simple stories that make a point. So don't retell your story, relive your story, and just relive that and remind people to do what it is that you're trying to say. And go to RyanAvery.com, get that free download, and really dive into. I give a lot of tips of how to develop that formula.
Fantastic. All right, Ryan, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to wrap up our discussion with the rapid fire Q&A.
Perfect.
Research in 2009 by Pablo Bernal revealed that by simply taking a posture of confidence, people feel more confident. Now there's a device that can help you with this. It's called LumoLift, and I've already pre-ordered mine. If you'd like to boost your confidence when speaking in public through better posture, check out whatthespeak.com/lift to watch the video and grab one for yourself. So Ryan, we're back to talk about 5 or 6 key questions. We're going to run through really quickly. The first thing that comes to your mind, would love to hear from you.
Okay.
First, are you a slide or no slide kind of a guy?
Good question. I say for my workshops, I'm a slide guy. For my keynotes, I am not.
Interesting. And why, for the keynotes, do you prefer not to use slides?
Keynotes, it's more about stories. I don't interact with the audience as much. With my workshops, I really get in with my audience and understand what it is that they're struggling with. We look at the slides, we talk about it, we see if we can rearrange them in a way of what works for them. I really get in on my workshop. So my passion is, if I could only do one type of speaking, it would be workshops, getting in there, doing those Q&As, finding out the specific needs. For a keynote, I'm usually there to inspire, to relive a story, and the client who's hiring on has a specific goal in mind that they want me to accomplish within their audience. And it's usually inspiring, motivating, or teaching them something along the lines of communication. So I think the best way to do that is through story, but with keynotes, I love to use the slides because I share videos in my workshops too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All sorts of multimedia, right?
Yes.
So this next question's a tough one.
Okay.
Who is one speaker that you admire the most and why?
It goes back to Seth Godin. Seth Godin is one of my favorite speakers and authors, several reasons. A, his passion. B, his quality of content. And C, his consistency. Again, you know you're passionate when you can blog every single day for 10 years. I think he's smart. I think he is witty. I think he has the ability to connect to his audience. I'm a very, very big fan of Seth Godin. I've read, I think, every one of his books. I think there's one that I haven't read yet. But every single one, I just stopped highlighting it because I'm like, well, I got to stop highlighting. There's too much to do. And I like that he says what he believes. I think that's a really important thing. That's another reason why I want to help people use their voice. It's not about you agreeing with me. It's about you sharing what you believe and getting that message out there. And I think he does a great job of that. I think he also does a really good job of taking complicated subjects and simplifying them for us so we can learn them. He's just a great all-time favorite, I would say, for sure. One of them. I have a couple more.
Yeah, it's hard, but if you had to pick one, it would be Seth.
Yes.
Okay, so now what's like the most bizarre, craziest, funny, silliest, whatever experience that you've had on stage? Some story that you can tell us that maybe something went awry.
The other week, The other week I was giving this huge keynote, and this guy in the front row whipped out one of those electronic cigarettes. And he was just smoking, and I could like see him. And it was in this like huge corporate environment, and it really threw me off. It really did. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't. Okay. And it caught me off guard. And I think I called attention to him, and he didn't like that. But it was just so random. Like that's what's so fun about speaking, right? You never know what's going to happen. I've talked to speakers who have like fire alarms go off, or like they've fallen on stage. I haven't, luckily, knock on wood, had anything like that happen to me yet. But that was probably the most recent thing that's happened. I've had a lot of things. I mean, that's just part of this business, you know. My wireless. A couple of months ago, my wireless microphone was on. I was just having a conversation. I was like, "Hey, what's up, y'all?" And you know, I'm not the professional type in the say of like tie and suit. I'm very like, let's hug, that's just my personality. And the audience was like, "Oh," and someone came running out. They're like, "Your wireless microphone is on." It was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Hello, everyone. I'm excited to talk to you. Sorry about that."
That's good. You gotta watch out for the microphone.
Yeah, gosh. And I've done it hundreds of times and I still forget it, you know?
All right. So now what's the impact that your ability to communicate had on your career? And this is always usually an obvious question because everybody who's on the show is a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I'd love to hear directly from you, you know, what's your reflection on this question to the impact that it's truly had on your ability to do this and advancing your career and the things that you do every day?
That's a great question. For me, my belief is that everyone focuses on leadership skills, which I think is great, but really you should focus on communication skills because the better speaker you are, the better leader you'll be. See, great leaders are able to effectively communicate their message. They have confidence. They are able to connect. They are able to be flexible. That's everything you need to be with the speaker. If you're not able to express your message, your feelings, your ideas, you can't be a leader. You can't get people to follow you. So one of the shifts that I want to see in my generation is, yes, be a good leader, but really understand these qualities of what it takes to be a phenomenal speaker. Because if you do that, you will be a better leader. You will be the best in your industry. So for me, being able to develop my communication and speaking skills, it has allowed me to see the world in a different light. I've, really changed my life when I read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And if you can only take away one line from that, it's seek to understand before being understood. That line changed my life. I knowing that and how to communicate and not just go in and speak what it is that you're talking about, but listening, speaking to myself, motivating myself. I think that's the biggest one. Being a better speaker in my relationship with my wife and making sure I am giving her what she needs and what she wants. So that's the formula for me, right? You have to focus on yourself, then your family, then your business. Like you can't be successful in business if your family isn't successful or if you're not successful. So learning how to communicate properly has changed every part of my life, not just business.
Now, what about advice that you would give to somebody who's just getting started? If they want to become a better communicator next week, what's one thing that they can do today to start down that path?
One thing that you can do, and I can only say one?
Yeah, just one.
I would say, what was I want you to read this one book. It's by James C. Humes, and it's Speak Like Churchill, Stand Like Lincoln. Read that book. It's my favorite communication book out there. I read it, and that was the first book on speaking that really inspired me. It teaches you a lot. He's a phenomenal man, great author, has wonderful books out. Standing Ovation is another one of his that's great. But read that one book and see if that's something that you think you can do, you're excited about, and that would be the one thing I would choose.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, we're going to have links to your website, the resource that you mentioned that people can subscribe to get access to, any other resources over in the show notes at whatthespeak.com. I want to sincerely thank you for sharing your time and your insights and your story of your personal journey.
Yeah.
You truly are somebody who kicks ass when they speak, present, or pitch.
Thank you.
Today's guest certainly had some amazing insights they shared. If you'd like to purchase a copy of their latest book, visit this episode's show notes over at whatthespeak.com and click the link at the bottom of the page to immediately order their book.
All right, here we go with the outro.
Thanks so much for joining us today on What to Speak. Be sure to visit whatthespeak.com for show notes on every episode and to sign up for our email list to stay updated on resources that'll help you kick ass when you speak, present, or pitch.